Okay, so this Syracuse.com news article came up today, and it just touches on so many relevant things in the Syracuse housing market that just felt like I had to had to make a little video here and just get some ideas out there. And I was so excited to do this video that I shaved in a hurry and just totally destroyed my cheek there. So gonna have to power through with this flesh wound. But anyway, so this is the article here. It just came up today. Syracuse area home building slumps when it needs to grow. Why are we stuck? So just the first thing that I want to talk about is this house right here, which is 139 Maxwell. And there was actually an article about this house on October 1st. So this house, it was a new build. It's a manufactured home, and it was being sold by the Syracuse, Greater Syracuse Area Land Bank, and it was for sale for $175,000. So great. A 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,500 square foot home for $175,000. Okay, we're making some progress. Like that's a pretty affordable home. Now the problem here being, actually, let me just click through the listing because, now I had a lot of people call about this home. One of the things is it does look like a mobile home. It looks like a manufactured home. Now it's handsome and it's nicely done, and all that. And that would be a sacrifice that would be fine for an affordable home, right? So just because it doesn't look like a colonial and it kind of looks like a manufactured home, isn't the end of the world if it could be done affordably. And I think they did. This is probably the luxury vinyl tile, LVT flooring. We've got new appliances. It's kind of a modern style with the white kitchen with the black hardware. We've got carpet in the bedrooms. It's well done. And for $175,000, that's an affordable home. So great, let's scale this up. How many of these can we get done and sold? Now the problem here being that it turns out. It was done, and so they're saying it's 25% less expensive than other new builds. And I was like, 25%. That seems like it's half the price of new builds, or even less. Most new builds are way more than that. Now the catch here being that it cost $300,000 to manufacture. So that is 25% less because for a new build, a 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,500 square foot new build is going to be at least $400,000. I've really seen more like $450,000 and up. But and like I said, at least $100,000 less than new homes in the Syracuse area. So that's great. But it costs $300,000 to build, and we're selling it for $175,000. So $125,000 price cut, and that's just a straight up subsidy. So are we really going to solve a housing affordability problem by discounting the home prices by 42% using other people's money? So is this really a sustainable way to build out more housing to meet the needs of the future, with or without Micron? We're gonna touch on Micron in a bit here, but so we've got a $300,000 cost to manufacture this house, and the result you get is fine. It's nice, it's well done, but this is not like a high-end house. It's a manufactured home. It's got vinyl flooring, it's got carpets, it's fine, but this is not a high-end home, and it costs $300,000, and it costs taxpayers $125,000. So 42% of this home is being subsidized by taxpayers, and the homeowner is essentially going to get $125,000 of built-in equity the moment they buy it. So that's just the first thing. Is the example that they're using in the main article I want to talk about is 139 Maxwell, which I'm skeptical that this is a long-term solution to the housing crisis in Central New York. Is that really how we're going to solve it? Is we're going to be selling houses at a 42% discount, subsidized by taxpayers? So a little bit skeptical of that, but they just have some really interesting data here about building permits and what's happening. So as we all know, and as I've talked about in other videos, Central New York is severely underbuilt, projecting out 10 years, even without Micron. So without the excess, the new employees and all the building and all that, even without that, Syracuse is dramatically underbuilt. That's one of the reasons that I'm projecting Syracuse home prices to continue to rise, is that we are underbuilt regardless of Micron. So even if you think Micron's not really going to happen, we're still going to see price appreciation because we're underbuilt, and then also since the cost of the new builds is so high, that's just pulling up the cost of the used housing. So there's still a ton of room to go. The median home sale price is around $280 now in Central New York. And if the absolute cheapest you could build a home for is $300,000 or realistically $450,000 for a non-manufactured home, that's just going to be pulling up that 280 even higher. And there is room to go up when you look at the median income to median home sale price. So we've got room to go up before we have quote unquote unaffordable housing. And so, these prices are just going to continue to rise. So, and again, all that is without Micron. Add the Micron gasoline to this fire, and it could get pretty crazy. But so in 2025, fewer new houses and apartments were completed in Onondaga County in any of the last 25 years. And obviously, with the exception of the pandemic year of 2021. So excluding 2021, we built fewer houses this past year than any other year at the time when it's most obvious that we need more homes being built. So what's driving this? So reading through this article, and they noted how rents are high and price of existing homes are surging, and that is absolutely true. Rents have gone up dramatically, and the median home sale price has gone up dramatically. We've got bidding wars on most houses. It's anyone who prices their home appropriately is getting multiple offers. It's a very competitive market currently, and that's the same for rents as well. And then again, we mentioned if and when and it does appear that the Micron fab plant is happening. So when that happens, that's just going to add dramatically more pressure on the housing issue. So county leaders say builders are preparing a new wave of projects that will jolt the housing market soon, but those plans have yet to make a substantial impact. Now I'm skeptical of this claim. In my experience, I'm not seeing massive, and that is also kind of contradicted within their own article. We built fewer housing units this year than any other year, and county leaders are saying, oh no, don't worry, this problem's going to get solved, in the next couple of years. So let's see. So 588 units of housing were built this past year. 196 were single family, 392 were apartments. So we only pulled 218 building permits for the first 7 months of the year, which is 21% fewer than in 2024. And again, the housing crisis is getting worse and worse, and we are building less and less. So you tell me what are the results of that going to be? Single family permits, and so actually this drop is mostly in multifamily, which that is the number one most important thing here to get, the bulk of these housing units is going to need to be multifamily, because people are going to start out as renters before they move into homeownership. So the immediate problem is to get multifamily done, then we can focus on single family, and that's the exact opposite of what we're seeing. There's going to be a massive amount of new housing. Okay. Prove it. Would love to see that actually get done. So far this hasn't materialized. So, so we're 30,000 units short. That was a Syracuse.gov projection. 30,000 units short. So we've got 16,000 new units that have put forward since Micron announced its intention in 2022. And I personally know of many more units that tried to get to the planning board to be built that were denied. So that's something else I'm going to talk about here is the red tape that's in the way. There are builders who want to build new housing, and they're not being allowed to do so. So just continuing on. And that's what we got right here. So of the 16,000, 6,600 are facing an uncertain fate. And others have been turned down by zoning changes. I know that from firsthand experience. So again, Micron could worsen prices. That's some pretty soft language. I don't see how it couldn't worsen prices. I mean, the current GDP of the Syracuse Metro is about $50 billion. This Micron project is projected to be a $50 to $100 billion project. So the GDP of Syracuse is going to double or triple in the next 10 years. Again, you tell me, what do you expect to happen to home prices and rent prices if you double and triple the GDP of an area? Presumably they're going to go up. And the demand is going to go up. And here we go. Even without Micron, many local residents are struggling with high rents. I get asked all the time by people, after they get beat up in the buyer's market and they're getting outbid, and they go, well, what if I just buy a lot and build a house? Well, here's the problem: $300 a square foot. It's over 300 square foot. So again, that 1,500 square foot 3-bed, 2-bath ranch is over $450,000. That for whom is that affordable? Especially when $450,000 and the used market can get you a lot of house in a really nice location with some land. Like you can get a lot for $450,000. Who's going to build a 3-bed, 2-bath ranch when they can get a 4-bed, 2.5-bath 3,000 square foot with a finished basement and XYZ on an acre of land. Two decades of decline. So the annual housing units built in Onondaga County since 2000. I mean, we're going the wrong way here. Like we need dramatically more housing units built, and we're headed in the wrong direction. So this was the COVID year, and here we are, just barely above that. It's a tough game. So now this residences at Moyne Manor. Let me just pull this up and see. So if you've driven by this. These are beautiful apartments. This builder. I've not met him personally. This is David Morocco. He did an excellent job with these. They're beautiful from the road. They're in a great location. They're central to a lot of things in Liverpool. So that's awesome that he was able to get this done. But the 1 and 2 bedroom apartments are for $2,400 and $2,650 a month. Is that what we're considering affordable housing? That is really going to put a lot of strain on people if a 1 bedroom is going for $2,400 a month, and that's because the cost of it was to build $15 million to build this. 10 years ago it would have been $10 million, and also how much of that is not building material costs and things like that, but all of the zoning and the hoops you have to jump through just to get the project approved. The average rent in Onondaga County was $1,689 in August, up more than 40% from 5 years ago. I actually think it's a higher increase than that. If I'm not mistaken, it's more like 65%. But in any event, whether it's 40 or 65, the cost of the rents are going up dramatically. And then this is what our new builds are. So that's just that's going to be tough. And here we go. A key obstacle is zoning. So I'm just going to tell a quick anecdote here. Actually, it won't be that quick, but I have a client who wanted to buy a 15-acre lot. It's a prime lot. It's near Micron. It's 15 acres, and there was going to be retail frontage because it was on a main road, and then they were going to do apartment buildings behind it. Okay. When they went to the planning board, the first thing the planning board said was that they wanted to do. They would prefer that the developer build an equivalent of a boutique hotel and restaurant. We have a housing crisis, and we've got 15 acres of prime real estate that we're going to do retail and apartment buildings. And the planning board's first piece of feedback is, what we really need is a high-end boutique hotel and restaurant. And it's like, what problem is that solving? And if you think that's going to be such a great idea, why don't you go ahead and do it, right? Like, why are we taking developers who are professionals and know what they're doing and are trying to solve this problem, and we're telling them, no, what you want to do, apartment buildings, let's not do that. Let's do a boutique hotel and restaurant. So anyway, then after that, when the developer kind of kindly said, like, that's not a realistic plan, and that's not a good use of this space. 15 acres, you don't need a boutique hotel on 15 acres. It makes more sense to do multifamily and a lot of housing. They came in with a apartment complex very similar to that one we were talking about in Liverpool. And the feedback they got was, well, we don't want apartment buildings, we want townhouses, which totally blew up their pro forma because townhouses are much more expensive to build, and you can only charge so much in rents. Like even these rents we were talking about, how much more can you charge before there just isn't a renter pool for you? So it totally blew up their pro forma because the townhouse cost to build is much higher, and the rents you can charge as a result of building them are proportionally not even close to as high. So this whole thing was just totally blown up, and it never ceases to amaze me that the planning boards are so picky about what gets built when the answer here, we have the golden goose, right? The golden goose is here. The golden goose is laying a $100 billion microchip manufacturing plant right in the heart of central New York. And the planning boards are not just, hesitating to just collect the eggs. That's all you got to do. Just we've got the golden goose. It's laying eggs. Just pick them up. And instead it's like, well, no, we want townhouses. We don't want apartment buildings. We want a boutique hotel. Just let people build and get this job done. We could have had another 500 units, had the planning board just approved and they were extremely nice apartments, just like the last one we looked at. They're very nice apartments. They're going to look great. They're going to be high end. Everything was great about it, but they just no, we want townhouses. So that zoning issue is I can tell you from firsthand experience. It's a huge problem, and with that, if we don't solve that problem, we're never going to solve the other problem. So the planning boards just need to be a lot more flexible with approving projects. And so this client I was talking about spent tens of thousands of dollars. I think it ended up being something like $75,000 on engineering plans and a site plan. And you got to get a topography study, and you got, there's a million hoops you have to jump through just to get to the point that you can present your project to the planning board. So you're 75 grand into it when you go to present the project to the planning board, and then they just say, actually, we want townhouses, try again, and townhouses don't work. It does not make economic sense to build townhouses. So now that $75,000, poof, that's gone. And now we've just got 15 acres of vacant land that's not being developed at a time when we need the most housing ever in central New York. So anyway, rant over on that particular thing. Look at that. Yeah, 1% of land outside of the city of Syracuse is zoned multifamily without a special permit. So either A, we could rezone it, or just be very liberal with giving out the special permits, right? There's multiple ways to skin that cat, but you got to do something. Okay, and this is also something that has come up a lot. Is the houses that we have. A lot of Syracuse was built in the 40s, 50s, 60s, because that's when the population of Syracuse was peaking, and those are a lot of 1,000 to 1,200 square foot homes, 3-bed, 1-bath, single car garage. That's all great. It's just that's not meeting the demands of the modern buyer, right? So the modern buyer needs at least 1.5 bathrooms. Like that second half bathroom makes a huge difference in your quality of life. And actually 3 bedrooms is perfectly fine. It's just a lot of people need home offices or things like that. So we can be more modest in what we are asking for. But part of it is just, we've got to get these houses built. And here we are. One of the factors that drives up the cost of any new home, builders say, is the time it takes to get approval from the municipal planning board. So that's what I was just talking about, where it's, we should be way further along than we are, and we're going backwards. It's so frustrating to see. The projects are there. It's just execution. Okay, so I don't want this to go on too long, but this is a great example of why I just do not see how home prices could possibly decline anytime soon. We're dramatically underbuilt. It's going to get worse when Micron moves in, and we're not doing anything about it. If anything, we're going backwards. So without a dramatic change in how zoning and planning is done, we are just going to be short on housing. And even if there's a change to planning and zoning, it's still going to take an extremely long time to get all these built and for the market to correct into a sane market where we have a balance between buyers and sellers or renters and landlords. Just right now, there are just not nearly enough houses for the people who need houses. So don't want this to go on too long, but let me know your thoughts, and feel free to reach out if you have anything to continue with.